Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am so excited to share this incredible stamp set with you. This is the first ever Trinity Stamps Stamptember set in collaboration with Simon Says Stamp, and I'm so honored to get to create with this. I love those stinking gnomes, and the reindeer, get out of town. Now here's the thing, it's a Stamptember set, so once it sells out, it is gone for good. There's a stamp set and then there's also a die option. If you don't have those, you can still make this rockin' pop-up box card that doesn't need any specialty dies. Just use your favorite stamps and dies that you already have in your stash. If you are interested in these stamps and dies though, I would grab those quickly. I don't know how long these will last, but they will not restock them. So I'm going to color up these images using my Ohuhu alcohol markers. If you don't want to watch the coloring, I'll pop up a timestamp on here so you can skip straight ahead to the card assembly. I promise that box card is a lot easier than it looks, and it's so much fun. I am putting my caps for my markers on the screen there, and I'm going to try to skip over, like, you don't need to see all the trees. They're kind of the same. Full disclosure, I am no one's coloring hero. And I colored these twice. So I actually had to film this card twice. The first time I had moved my camera setup around a little bit, and when I went to edit the footage, the camera was shaking so badly, like so badly. I was like, I can't edit that into a video. So this is also round 2 coloring them. I got a little bit of practice, and that helps because I'm not fast at coloring. I'm the opposite of fast. But these images are pretty easy as far as they go because all of the spaces are fairly small. I've tried to stick to 2 to 3 colors per section or critter or tree or you name it. Just keep it really simple. As I mentioned, there is a die set available to go with these stamps. I don't have that. So I used my scan and cut. You guys, I have one of the like original scan and cuts, and she is a dusty middle-aged woman. So I think I stamped these and attempted to cut them like 5 times before I got this one set. I definitely cut them out before I colored them because I didn't trust them to come out okay. I'm definitely a die girl, but that's okay. That's okay. So I've been kind of coloring along here, and for me, the gnomes on the sled were where I spent most of my time, like trying to figure out how do I color. There's a lot of gray in this one. How do I color these and vary the gray scale a little bit? How do I tie in the colors to go with the rest of the images as well? And so I'm going to bring in the same blue from the reindeer hat onto this gnome's hat and the same sort of pinky purple tones from the brim of the reindeer into the second one. This particular trio might be one of my new favorites. I really love non-traditional Christmas colors, and so like teal, pink, and green, I'm all on board. I would love to know in the comments below, what is your favorite holiday color combination? Because this right here is up there towards the top, but I also love like a black and white and red or a black and white and gold, right? Just to switch it up. Nothing against traditional Christmas colors, but if that's your favorite, if you like traditional best, I want to know that too. I've got a lot of holiday inspiration coming up over the next couple of months. And so, yeah, I know what's comfortable for me, but I would really like to maybe expand my comfort zone a little bit. Okay, we're coloring beards, and I got to tell you, last time I colored these, I ended up with 1 gray beard and 1 white beard because the white beard, the first one, got a little too dark. And I'm struggling with that first beard right now. So I just got a bigger set of alcohol markers and I haven't swatched all my grays. And I was like, it's fine, they're just grays. And on that first gnome, the darkest marker I grabbed was just way too dark. And so I'm missing a cap on my mint tape. It's because I put him in timeout and he is not allowed back. And I'm just going to go over that beard with my colorless blender and try to smooth it out so I don't really have any of those wispy beard hair lines. And then I'm going to come in with 2 lighter gray markers and try to add some of those back in. So we'll do like a gray base for the beard. And it turns out okay. But It was like the last part I colored. I had put off the beard because I was worried that I was going to mess it up next time. Start with the beard and then work your way to the easier stuff. So here's my card base. It is 10 inches by 4¼ inches. And I'm going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, 1¼ inch, 2 inches, and 2½ inches. All right. Then I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees and do it again. 3/4 of an inch, 1¼ 2, 2½. Then I'm going to take this to my trimmer and I am going to trim just a sliver off of both ends. Okay, when we go to fold up the box sides of this, it will really help if that flap on the end is just a little shorter. I'm going to fold them all along the score lines as mountain folds, and it just sort of curls in on itself and creates this little box. So I'm going to crease those score lines on both sides just to kind of get everything prepped and ready. The assembly for this box is really simple. So here you can see I have this flap on the end. It's about 1 inch. And I'm going to add glue to my flap, but I am going to leave just a tiny little bit of space along this score line. Okay, I'll explain why later, but it will help if you have just a little bit of space. Then there's my flap and my first score line, and then the second. I'm folding on the second score line. And that flap with the glue will butt right up against another score line. So I will fold the whole thing over at that score line that's right next to the flap. Okay, the key here is to fold on the second score line. And then that's my box. Let's do it again. Here's my 1 inch flap, and then I'll fold on the second score line. I'm adding glue only to the flap, and I'm leaving just a little bit of space right near the score line. Then I will fold on the score line that butts up against the flap, press it flat, and there's my box. The base of the card is done. That is it. So this is 3¼ by 4¼ and it fits right in there, but you can see it's a little snug. That's why we left a little space. I wanted to be able to slide that ever so slightly underneath those boxes so I get a better fit, and I didn't have to try to trim that down to be absolutely perfect. I have some lavender cardstock and I'm adding a little bit of tumbled glass and then a little bit of spun sugar. I'm making a wintry scene and it's going to be pretty subtle. But in the end, I am so happy with this background. I wasn't sure when I was making it. I was like, is this too subtle? You'll have to let me know what you think. I'm coming over the top of both of those with some white pigment ink and just adding that to sort of the top and a little bit to the sides. We're creating a little snowy vignette. I'm going to heat set that ink before I attach this to my background because I don't want to worry about warping the base of the card. I found it easier to add my glue inside that section of the card so I'm not accidentally like smearing glue on the boxes while I fit this in. And then I'll just wiggle until it pops underneath the boxes on the side. And then it wasn't a perfect fit. So if there's any gapping, I'm going to leave that at the bottom because we're going to cover it up. No one's going to see it. I'm bringing in some metallic watercolors and I'm keeping this pretty subtle. I'm bringing in my sort of pearly white, and then I will bring in that very palest gold. I don't really want to change the color. I just want to add a little bit of sparkle, and we're going to add some embellishments later that really work better if it already looks like we have this sparkly metallic background going on. This is the Embossed Edge Hills and Slopes from Trinity Stamps. This came out in the holiday release, which is releasing today, the same day as their Stamptember release. And I have several pieces of cardstock. I have that shimmery white and then a heavyweight piece of white cardstock. My shimmery white is not very heavy. It's like a 65-pound. So I'm going to cut through both layers at the same time. I need the shimmery white layer to end up whiter than the heavyweight cardstock. So I am lining up the bottom edge and then I'm placing my die so that I will have kind of a flap on the left and ultimately a flap on the right. I brought in my box card. I'm checking to make sure that hill's gonna fit kind of right in the middle. Then I have a piece of heavyweight white cardstock that I've already glued to some shimmer cardstock, and I'm creating a second hill. So there's this one that's kind of wavy. It's a real subtle wave, and I'm gonna angle that to enhance the hill on that. So here are my pieces. I'm separating my heavy cardstock from my shimmer cardstock, and we're going to work with just that heavyweight cardstock first. I want to create a piece that is 3.5 inches wide, so it will fit perfectly in the middle of our box card. So I'm bringing in my image of my sledding gnomes and figuring out where they're going to go on that hill. I really want to keep as much of that left downward slope as I can, and then I will trim to 3.5, and I'm just going to check the fit. Okay, it fits right in the middle, and actually have a little bit of wiggle room, which is perfect. It's really only going to be there for stability. Then here's my slope that's going to go all the way across the front of the card, and I'm just eyeballing it, figuring out how high I want it to come up based on where the hill behind it is, and I'll just use my pencil to mark that, and then I'm going to trim it right where that pencil line was, and again at 5 inches. Go a little heavy on the 5 inches. You can always trim more off, but in the end I decided this one's slightly too narrow, and I'm going to recut it again later. Okay, so here's my 65-pound cardstock, and I ultimately want it to be 3.5 inches wide plus a 1/4 inch flap on either side. This is what I found to be the easiest. I am just taking that heavyweight cardstock and I'm folding the lighter cardstock around it. Okay, that's how I know where my score lines need to be. I'm going to bring this onto my card base. I'm double checking and making sure that it fits in there without buckling in the middle, right? Otherwise it's too tight and that's not going to work. And I am going to line up one score line on the very edge and then move the left-hand score line by a 1/4 inch so that I create that 1/4 inch flap. Now I'm going to lay the whole thing flat and move it a 1/4 inch away from the score line. Okay, ultimately both flaps need to be the same width. You could skip all of that. You could just glue that hill straight to the background, but I really wanted like a middle layer, and that's what we're doing. You could also skip this heavyweight layer if you wanted, if you were using like an 80-pound cardstock. I tried to make that middle layer out of a 100-pound cardstock, and the card does not fold flat very well. It's just too thick in the middle, but you could use an 80-pound and then you wouldn't need the backer. Okay, so here I am. I've got my snow hill in the middle. Again, you could skip all the flaps and just glue it straight to the background, but I'm going to add glue to the right-hand flap. Okay, see that? Just on the flap. And then I'm going to butt that flap up against the box on the right-hand side, and then I'm going to press the box into the glue. As I'm assembling this, I'm being really careful to make sure that this is going to still fold flat into my envelope. And then when I lift that up, you can see it's attached to the box on the side, and it's just that 1/4 inch away from the background. So then I'll press that right box flat to the right and add glue to the left-hand flap, and I'll press the left box into the glue. The entire card is folded flat when I secure that second piece. That is critical so that you know it's going to fit in your envelope. Then the other hill is just going to attach to those two boxes on either side. So I'm going to take my images and just kind of lay them out on my card and figure out where I want everything to go. And it's while I'm playing with these images that I decided my hill is actually very slightly too short or too narrow, I guess. We're talking width here. So I will cut it again, and then I'm going to stamp on it. I needed to know where my images were going to go, so I knew where to stamp it. And there are some really wonderful sentiments in this set. We're going to use the one that says Snow Much Fun, and I have a general sense of where it goes, but I'm bringing the images in one more time just to make sure I get the placement right, and that I'm not going to end up with images overlapping this stamp. So I will add that to the door of my Misty and do this as awkwardly as possible. Here's my anti-static powder, and then I don't know why I was opening this like away from me. It works. It's fine. It stamps beautifully. It gets the job done. Oh, you guys. Oh, geez. Okay, so I am adding some gold embossing powder to that Snow Much Fun. I love how sort of whimsical this font is, and they're all like that in this set. And so I'm just going to heat set that, and it's good to go. To add this to my card, I'm using my fingers to remind me of how far out I can put my glue. I'm only gluing it to the box, just the box. And then I will line it up on the bottom and on that left side, right along the score line. Then I'm going to press the entire card flat to the right, and I'm going to add glue just under that flap, only on the box. I'm making sure it's parallel with the bottom so that it will stand up well on display. And I will just hold on. There's a little bit overhanging, right? When I recut it, I was like, just be generous, because it's easy enough to trim off any excess. And that's my box card. You guys, you can do this with any stamp set you have, right? I have this lovely hill and slope die set, and it creates these wonderful embossed lines, but you can just cut a wonky line with some scissors, right? This is a method, and I just am so thrilled that I got to do it with this set, but you can do it with anything. I did cut out with my temperamental scan and cut an extra set of each stamp, because I knew that some of these were going to be hanging in the air and I wanted them to be nice and sturdy. And so I'm just gluing that blank one right behind there to make sure it's not going to get crushed as the card's being opened and folded. Then I'm bringing in these Shimmer Snowflakes. It's an embellishment mix from Trinity Stamps. And they're these teeny tiny, very sparkly, 100% flat embellishments. And I put them, you know, everywhere, because sparkle and the holidays. And I'm just adding little dots of glue, and then I will pick them up with my little wax pickup stick and add them to my card. I found that to be much easier to do this second go round. If you didn't watch the coloring, guys, I made this card twice. It's easier to do before I add my images. So now I'm adding my little sledding gnomes, and I'm just double checking, like, where can the glue go? I don't want it hanging over the background and then I accidentally glue the whole thing together. It's not even shut, it's just together. And I am using my reverse tweezers to hold that in place and help it dry. And then I will add my little Rudolph down on the bottom. You guys, my 8-year-old the other day was like, why is it always got to be Rudolph? Why can't it be Dasher? So yeah, on my to-do list, just to make a card with Dasher. Who's your favorite reindeer? Do you guys have Olive? We used to, when I was growing up, we would get gifts from Olive, like Olive the other reindeer, right? Olive. And then I met my husband and he was like, what do you mean Olive? Like, what is this? Okay, I'm adding a second layer to a couple more of these. Like, this tree is hanging off the edge to the right a little bit. And the other tree, because I used 2 layers of cardstock essentially for that snowy drift on the bottom, I just felt like the shift in dimension of layering was enough that I really wanted that second layer of cardstock for the small tree. Then this is a brand new stamp set as well. This is the Insider Sentiments, and you guys, I love these. There's some really sweet ones and some really funny ones. One of my favorites says, this Christmas, may your family be functional and all your batteries be included. But we're going to be a little sweeter this time around. This one says, wishing you all the happiness your holiday can hold. And I just love that. I think that that fits for so many different people at different spaces in their lives. You know, like a wish for happiness for someone who's maybe struggling with that, but also then like the joy and exuberance that you get from gnomes sledding. Or my kids both have birthdays right around the holidays too. And so they're just like coming out of their shoes every day with excitement and anticipation. I love the holidays. I love them so much. And to get to share that with my kids for their birthdays too is really an awful lot of fun. This piece is 4 by 4 3/4. And so that will fit on the back with just a little margin on all 4 sides. And then I have one more tree that I colored up. So I'm going to add that to the bottom right-hand corner. It leaves me plenty of space to write a little message. And that will finish up our box card. I hope you like this. I just think it's so much fun. I've been making a lot of box cards lately, but this was the first time I had tried to add a scene and that little pop-up section in the middle. Remember, you don't have to pop that up. You could put that snowy hill flat against the background and it's even easier. I hope that you will give this a try. If you like this card, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you, and I will see you next time.